Hi guys, I'm Ciprian and I'm here with my brother Alex. Today we're launching our Gavriliu Brothers podcast about prosperity, and our first guest is Gerard Koolen, the co-founder and partner at Lugera, which is like the biggest recruiting business in Romania and the biggest independent recruiting company in Eastern Europe. And we want to talk about prosperity, about mindset, about money, about becoming
Business.
more efficient and happy in business and life. That's it.
Forte bine. Let's do that.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Gerard, for being here.
Thank you guys for having me here. I'm very excited. I'm very grateful that I can be here. So thank you very much.
Mhm.
Thank you.
We're also very thankful. What does prosperity mean to you? How do you define
Prosperity means to me that you are successful, that you have a lot of money, so that you are financially blessed and with physical well-being.
it? Mhm. Do you think like the financial side of life is something that you are blessed with, or something that you can control? Or how do you think about that?
I think prosperity is a choice. It's a deliberate choice. Being prosperous probably means for everybody something else. But I think if you would ask a lot of people, being prosperous is having a lot of money, affluence, abundance in whatever it is you would like to have. What people want to have can be different.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that is prosperity. That you have what you really want to have and that it goes well.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to prosperity, what do you think is the most important? The work you put in your business or in your career, or maybe the mindset?
I think prosperity starts with the mindset. Let me tell you an example. My parents, they had a small shoe shop. And in the course of their working career, they saved 500,000 euro, which is a lot of money, especially that time. And my mother always made me, when I made coffee, we had this coffee filter machine,
Yeah.
and you have these filter papers, right?
Yeah.
And I was never allowed to throw away the filter. I had to clean it and reuse it. So I made a record that I could use this filter 12 times before it broke.
Wow.
And my mother, even when she had all that money, she always thought it was not enough and we are poor, right? My father, on the other hand, was a happy guy, and he said, I'm having enough. I am rich. So two people with the same amount of money, one feels poor and the other feels rich. So my father was prosperous, my mother not. And after my father died, my mother had enough money. She could take a taxi to her friend, which was 30 euro, or she could take the state taxi, which was 2 euro. One took her in 15 minutes, the other in 2 hours. She was always complaining about those 2 hours, but she didn't want to spend the 30 euros. She rather spent the 2 euro. So
Interesting.
that is, prosperity starts with a mindset, I would say. Not even with maybe a vision or a goal, but you must feel prosperous to become prosperous.
Have you ever talked with her? I don't know, and if the question is too personal, you can refuse to answer. But I'm curious, have you ever talked to her or understood her intention? Was that coming from like a fear? I don't want to spend money because at some point I might not have enough, or it's just, I don't know, it's better to be thrifty, not to splurge around, or anything else.
Yeah, I think she was brought up in the Second World War, although her father had a big bakery, so they had it good. I think it was just her attitude, always worrying, never having enough, always trying to save. And it's I would say it's a poor mindset. So no matter how much money she would have, she wouldn't feel happy with it. I think prosperity is also linked with happiness, I would say.
So it's not about
In which way?
getting to a certain point, and then deciding, oh, I'm happy, but starting to live like right now, be happy with what you have, but maybe work for more.
Yeah. Well, I talked with her about it often, and she said that it would make her happy to spend a lot of money, and probably with the intention I might not have enough, or difficult to say.
What do you think about, for example, it's always this question around prosperity. So, and a lot of people who are saying about privilege, maybe you have the privilege to, in America, they talk a lot about you are white, or you are from a certain class, you are born in a certain class, or you are born in a certain place geographically, or a country, or you have access to education or things like that. How do you think about those things? Can people who are born in countries who are poorer, or they have suffered a lot of hardships or trauma, or have developed a kind of mindset, I don't know if you know about it, about the learned hopelessness, For example, when you grow up, you try, you don't see a lot of prosperity examples around you. Do you think those people can overcome that and prosper and maybe lift a community or themselves?
I'm convinced. In every country, no matter how poor, you have billionaires and millionaires everywhere, all over the world. So I would say prosperity is a choice. But I agree that if you are raised in New York and you had a great education on Harvard, it is made much easier for you than somewhere else. But also you are always in competition. So if you are raised in a little town in the Sahara, you have less competition and not from the Harvard people. So, I mean, there is always opportunity. There is always opportunity. And it doesn't help to feel pity for people. I think it's much better that you encourage people that they can reach for the stars if they want. And I also think that being pampered doesn't necessarily make you very prosperous. There is an advertising in the Netherlands from UPC it was, and you see one baby, two babies next to each other. And one baby's getting pampered and presents, and he's really spoiled with everything. And the other baby is looking at that baby, and you see the face of that other baby angry because he's getting nothing. And then the names appear: John Smith, Bill Gates. So the angry baby is Bill Gates. So to say that
adversity can be an advantage.
Exactly.
You said that prosperity is a choice, but first you have to understand, a person have to understand that has that choice, you have to understand that is possible, that you really have that choice. In some societies, as Romanian society, the main thing was work. If you want to succeed, you have to work, no matter what. The mindset was left aside completely, And here in our country, we have a lot of many good people, and with a very good ethics, but poor or not so prosperous,
Struggling.
Even they work, they work, So that's why we ask you those questions, and we want to find new ways to understand the mindset, how to
So it's a more
understand,
direct
yeah.
question. How do you think Romanians sabotage themselves? Because you have like an outside
Yeah.
perspective.
Well,
Something
first of all,
specific to us?
I love Romania, and I'm a fan of Romania, and I'm a fan of Romanians
Yeah.
because the team we have here in Romania is so good, you know. And my partner, Christina Sawica, I think that if you would ask her this question, she is Miss Prosperity herself. You know, she is prosperous. Even when we started in her little room from her home, she was already successful. I mean, we had a lot of setbacks, and she always smiled at it and she went for it. But let me tell you, I think where it starts, like at school, and we have always learned that if you do stuff,
yeah
then you will have good results,
yeah
and then you are happy,
yeah
right? So you must work your ass off. So you work hard.
yeah
Then I have money. And then with that money, I buy myself beautiful stuff. And when I have the beautiful stuff, I'm happy. But when you have, after working so hard and you have nearly a burnout and you have your money and your beautiful stuff, you're not happy with it.
yes
And because you will always, then you are more in a rat race, always trying to get more. What I would suggest, if you really want to be prosperous, that you start with being prosperous. So with the attitude, with the feeling. So if you make yourself be prosperous, if you can feel prosperous, then you will automatically do what successful people do. And then you will have all what it is you want. But so you should not start with the hard working, although hard working is good, because you know you can't avoid, if you want to be very successful, you can't avoid to also hard work. But if you are successful and you love what you do, it's not hard work. You just do what you love to do.
yeah what you want.
So be prosperous, and from that state of mind, you can move mountains.
What are the top 3 things that you would suggest to somebody who wants to start feeling more prosperous and to shift from a mindset where they feel they don't have enough or they're negative or things like that?
Study prosperity, read about happiness, read about, train yourself about what is possible. So, you know, I have read all the books from Dale Carnegie, from Anthony Robbins, from all the gurus, you could say, and I've read all the books. Your mind is like a muscle, and you can shape it the way you want. You can make it big, you can make it strong, but you have to train it. And you train it with mental exercises, with reading books. So, yeah, I have just read whatever I could read, and I'm still reading whatever I can read about it. It never stops.
And you think that you get to a point where you actually kind of answered the question, but you think you get to a point where the mind is just helping you and it's positive and all the things is like going, you know, well? Or you need to work constantly to read more, to train your mind? What do you think? It ever ends, or?
I think it's never ending. I mean, it is with growth. Once a thing stops growing, it gets down. So that's when people also get old, because they stop growing, they stop doing stuff. So I think that once you stop, it deteriorates. It's with your muscle, it is with your brain.
And
So you see the life like a training ground, a permanent training ground. Always you have to learn something new. Always you have to train yourself, your mind.
why do you think
every time,
yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
You can get like a deposit of I know everything. I know
I've
enough.
done life, you
Yeah,
know.
I
and
know.
now
I know enough.
Yeah.
Enough, and now I can live my life.
It just works.
Yeah, it just works.
But then you go, if you do that, I think you go down. You know, you
Yeah.
learn yourself new skills all the time.
Mhm.
Now I did a photo reading course, and now I can read books in 2 or 3 hours. I'm learning 2 languages, constantly new skills. I'm trying to run a marathon and other stuff, and constantly challenging yourself. It's not always easy, and you don't always like it, but when you do it, the results are phenomenal.
Mhm. How do you motivate yourself to like do what you know it's right, even if it's hard in the moment? Because you always have a choice. You can, I don't know, go for a chocolate bar or a Netflix chill on the couch, or you can go out and run. And in the moment, you will feel the resistance when you start running or you start learning something new. How do you yourself, how do you negotiate with yourself?
Especially when it rains, to go
Yeah.
out running. Well, you know, be good for yourself and nice and gentle. So I think you should not always do it. You should take it also easy on yourself, and so not be tough on yourself, because then you are beating yourself up, and then again you don't feel happy, you don't feel prosperous. So
Even if you get some results.
yeah, but you have to also I think you should be balanced. You know, you should do within, I would even say, within your comfort zone. It is a hype, and it's very modern to say you should go out of your comfort zone. Go out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
There is the game. But when I'm training for an Ironman, so that is 3.8 kilometers swimming, 180 kilometers biking, and a marathon running. But now I'm doing the marathon running and the biking, but I stay in my comfort zone. I never exceed the limit, so I don't have injuries. I take it easy. I will reach it, but I take it easy with myself so that it stays fun. If it's not fun anymore, you're not prosperous, I would say. And also, you know, with our company, you don't have it when you have a company and you build it up. It's not always fun and it's not always easy. So you have crises. You have to let people go, which you like, which is not nice. So a lot of companies now in Romania and all over the world, they have big problems, right? And the previous crisis, that was in 2008, 2009, I decided I take all my clients every night out. So for dinner, to stay close with my clients and to get some orders. And after 3 or 4 months, I noticed that I actually was drinking every night with my clients alcohol. So I was drinking wine and beer.
Yeah.
And after 3 or 4 months, I thought, oh my God, I'm an alcoholic. If I continue with this, I will soon be dead. And I felt lousy because I was just drinking too much. And so I had to stop drinking, you know, if I wanted to survive this. And then I stopped drinking. But
for good, like?
Yeah, I never drink anymore. Since then, I was really shocked that I was drinking so much. So then...
How do you stay positive and hopeful when things are in a downturn, like right now, the economy and all?
Well, I have learned that in all those years that I had businesses, from time to time you go nearly bankrupt, or you have problems, and when it happens the first couple of times, you don't know for sure that you will survive, and that's scary.
Yeah.
And that gives you the stress. But if you keep believing in yourself, that you know, once I told a colleague who was desperate where the results were bad, etc. I said, okay, do you know what goes wrong? She said, yes, no problem. I know what's going wrong. Good. Do you know what to do about it? And she said, yes, of course I know what to do. And then I asked, are you going to do it? Are you going to take action? And she said, yes. And then I said, what are we worrying about then? Because then it will be good. So as long as you believe that you are convinced I'm going to make it, you don't have to worry. Then you will. And then you have always enough energy to overcome any big challenge.
Do you think this relates in any way with the fact of not having a deadline or not having certain expectations, just giving yourself, I want to do this, I don't know how long it will take me, but I'm determined that I will do it? Do you think it has some connection with this?
Absolutely. So we are developing, 4 years ago, we decided to develop software.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Silicon Valley and Toronto, New York, to all the big IT hubs to find a company who wanted to make it. They all said, well, your ideas are good, but it's impossible to make it. So if you are ready, come to us and we sell it for you. So after 1.5 years, I found 2 Romanian companies who said, okay, we're going to do it. We can develop it for you. And one of those applications is a recruitment application, and that is so incredible good. But what happened is that we thought we would spend on those 2 applications 400,000 euro, and it would take us 2 years. Now we are 4 years later, and we spent 1.6 million euro. So, of course, my partners, some of them are totally not happy because I'm spending so much money. They are totally not happy because the applications are not even good yet. You know, they are now in the beta version, so we have to develop more. But the technology in one of the applications is so far better than what Google has today in their career or in their recruitment software, that we have now technology, and a small company in Romania made it, that we have technology what is breathtaking. You know, it's unique in this world. And that is what I feel as prosperity. I didn't have a deadline, we don't have a budget. Mm-hmm. I just continue until it works. And
never give up.
Never give up.
And you don't put yourself condition. To feel prosperous or to be prosperous, I need to do this in 2 years and to cost me that. If I don't fulfill that, that means I failed. You don't put yourself conditions.
No. Because then, if you put conditions, you will always lose. Because you can never meet your conditions. I never look at competition. I don't make budgets. I don't compare with competition. You know, actually, I don't care. You know, I do always every day my best, and that should be enough. Michael Jordan once said, I don't compete with nobody. I only try to be better tomorrow than I am today. Mm-hmm. And that's all you can do. And if you look at competition, there will always be somebody better. There will always be somebody richer and smarter or more beautiful or with a better car or whatever. You can never win. So don't look for
it's
battle.
It's a rigged game.
Exactly. So don't look for that. You know, look for the joy of what you do today. Look for the pleasure and the joy of it.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I have this problem myself, and I think with other people too. So I think that if I do my best, it's not enough, you know. And that I don't know how to work around that, you know, especially in the moment, because if I take some time, if I take some time, I see, okay, it's just I need to be more patient, or I need to do something different, or, you know. But in the moment, I feel whatever I do, it's so my best. It's not enough. It's not enough to make it work.
Yeah, we often link success with results, but or the feeling of prosperity with results. When you don't get results at a certain time, at the deadline you put,
Yeah.
then you feel like you failed, and that's not good because it's affecting you, and you don't believe anymore in your success, in yourself, in your goals, and maybe you quit.
Yeah.
What do you think I can improve, around this area?
Well, to take it easy and simple, and like being successful for what I see in some people around me is that they are chasing a lot of expensive stuff around them. But I know guys who spend 100,000 euro per month, and they're always broke at the end of the month. And for them, it's always a rat race to get more and more. I would not call that prosperous, although if you would see them, beautiful Porsche, beautiful house, but when they will not have an income for 2 or 3 weeks, they can't pay the car anymore, they can't pay nothing anymore.
They're living on the edge.
So they are in a rat race, earning more, spending more, then you have to earn again more, and you spend more, and you borrow money, and so I would, on the other side, if you do stuff because you love it and you like it, then it's so easy, because then you are already happy. You don't need big stuff to buy, because those things, this guy I'm talking about, those expensive things own him.
Yeah.
So he's not the boss of it. And of course you can have a beautiful car. I also have a beautiful car, but I don't owe it. It doesn't owe me. I can also drive in a small car, and I'm happy. But anyhow, many people think that becoming successful and prosperous is really difficult. And I actually think it's really easy if you understand what to do. And the first so simple step is that I learned that from a Chinese guy in India. He was in Indonesia. He had 3 huge factories, rich guy. And he took me out to a very cheap restaurant, and we ate something. He said, Gerard, our wealth from our family came because we always saved money. From day one that we had an income, we saved money. If we earn a lot, we save a lot. If we earn a little, we still save. Even if we couldn't buy food, first we save money. And he said, as a kiddo, I didn't like that because I wanted the beautiful toys, etc. But now I'm happy. So the first step, what most people don't understand, is that you have to start saving money from day one you have an income. And never spend in a year more than you have income. Never spend more. And always save. And you will understand what I mean if you read The Latte Factor, a little book, or the book from Anthony Robbins, Money, Master the Game.
Yeah.
And I have made a summary on one page of that book, so if you like it, I can send it. But save money from day one and keep on saving. Never spend and do stuff with that money, because the more money you get on your saving account, the more money starts working for you. And when you reach a critical mass, then you get financial freedom without that you have to work for it. Not that you will stop working, because you probably love what you are doing. And my son, of course I taught him save money from when he was a little kid. And he wants to be a gardener, so a landscaper. And he did his school, he got his diplomas, he was working for other landscaping companies. He had a lot of criticism on those guys, they didn't do a good job. Then he went to Australia for a year, backpacking. But what he did was that 7 months he was working at landscaping companies, learning and making $30, $40, $50 an hour. He came back with a lot of money. He saved again. So he had a great time, but he came back with more money. And he could start his own company. He saved so much money. He could buy a truck. He could buy all his equipment immediately. He could rent a nice house. He could decorate it. And the funny thing is, the guy is making 4,000 or 5,000 euro a month already, starting with his company, a little company. And that is, feeling prosperous, feeling you can do it, always saving money, not being cheap, but saving money. And then you can move forward. He will have his setbacks. He will lose money, for sure. We all do. I mean, this time is not really a time of making most of the money, but it doesn't matter. You have your setbacks. If you feel prosperous, you go anyhow. On the other hand, if I see people who are not prosperous, I see people who earn 80,000 euros a year or 60, 70,000, which is a good salary. They have a car from the company and they are always short of cash. If their salary is paid 2-3 days too late, they are already in problems. So they're always poor because they're always having financial problems, worries.
Where do you think that comes from?
When I was a little kiddo, I had, my parents were fairly doing well, and I had friends of very poor families. So they were living in a small room with 4 or 5 children. And the funny thing was, those families had, when there were color televisions introduced, they were the first to have a color television.
Yeah.
My father could buy many of them, but we were the last to have a color television because he waited when the prices were reasonable.
Yeah.
But poor families said, no, we must have it. Look, we deserve to have it. So I would say that if you don't have a prosperous mindset, you think you should have stuff what you think rich people will buy or whatever.
So you make a confusion. You associate the prosperity with the things you have, the things other people can see you have.
Yeah.
I think also it's I think it's a lot about shame, a lot about feeling yourself less than, about things that you don't speak. I don't know, as a kid or as a family. Look, there are some people that have all these nice things we don't have a standard, or we are living in a way that we are not seen to be okay by the society. We live 5 people in just one room. And with the Romanians also coming from the communism, you see a lot of expensive cars, a lot of expensive or flashy lifestyle, or clothes or Gucci or whatever. Why? Because you didn't have it. We didn't have it, But with a lot of people that they have money from a generation to another, they don't necessarily have the need to prove themselves or to wear Gucci, because they know they have it, and you didn't.
They feel good with themselves.
Yeah, they feel good with themselves. So I think it's a lot of shame associated with that, a lot of feeling less than.
Maybe.
Yeah, and traumas, and I want to, for example, look, something very personal. I'm thinking about with my brother, we're thinking about this, we're learning about this for many years, but I don't have a lot of friends who I hang out usually that are prosperous. And me, myself, I have some sort of, I don't know, I'm feeling a little edgy around people who are more prosperous than me. And I'm thinking, why is that? Because they are also humans. As long as I don't compare myself, or I don't say I'm richer than you, or coming up with something false. It's something natural, Maybe I have something to offer on the personal side or on the professional side, I'm better with other things and we can help each other. I don't know, just hang out, just have a good time. But I have this thing,
Well, if you look at your movie from It's a Women's World, I would say that is prosperity. And that is probably the result of hard and long work. And when you make such a movie, well, that is prosperity. And that is what you have to offer,
Yeah.
you know, and that's it, and that's enough. And in the end, you know, you don't do it for nobody else. In the end, you only do it for yourself. And you don't need the acknowledgement or the compliments from others, basically. Prosperity is, I think, also being independent. But you know what you said about the differences and being with very rich people. There are always people who are richer. Unless you are perhaps Bill Gates or somebody, then
Jeff Bezos.
then there is nobody richer anymore, right? So there is only one person in the world who has the most money, but that's it. We are with billions of people.
But he also has a problem that it's the only one.
But you know, when I was a young kiddo, my friends of my parents were very rich. They had a big yacht, etc. And sometimes they had a big factory. And sometimes I went to that factory and I said, wow, impressive factory. And my friend's father, he was really a director and a cool guy, beautiful big cars. And then my friend got a beautiful speedboat. And I thought, you know, I also want a boat. And I got an old aluminium little boat with a little engine. And I thought one day, okay, you know, my uncle, and he was a great guy, he was a wonderful guy. I will have that. I will be that, you know. And then when I was 16 years old, I got a job as cleaning offices at ABN AMRO Bank. And I was allowed to do the offices of the directors. And so I did the CEO office. And I was cleaning there, and I was always looking at the post he had on his desk of loans from hundreds of millions to one company and this. And I saw that meeting room, and then I sat in the meeting room from time to time, and I played a businessman. And then I thought, you know what, this is what I will have to. And that was the choice, because I liked it a lot. You know, the smell of the leather gouges and So you know, it was a choice. I was cleaning those offices and the toilets. And then you see, you know, even no matter how much money you make, you have to go to the toilet. So it's the biggest equalizer. So you know, it's a choice. And other people also, what I think is that what you see with a lot of people is that they have a tough relationship with money. So they are envious on people with a lot of money. They are angry. They even can think, okay, he probably stole it, or they are corrupted, or whatever, right? But you know, you can better be totally unhappy with a lot of money than totally unhappy with no money, right? So that's one thing, and you should not be angry on other people having a lot of money, and be happy for them. And if you get money, be happy that you have that money. Love the money you get. Be grateful for the money you have. You know, because if you love money and like money, you will attract money. Money will start to love you. If you hate money and are angry and always thinking, I have not enough, then you will not have enough. You will always have problems.
What do you think is the shortest way to flip that switch, to go from angry or being bitter that you don't have enough or other people have more than you, to actually being satisfied and starting to develop a positive energy and relationship with money?
be grateful.
For what you have, right?
Yeah. Every morning, you get up, and before you get out of your bed, you think of 3 things you are grateful for. Whenever you are angry, be grateful for something, because gratitude replaces anger. Gratitude replaces jealousy and any negative emotion. You can't be angry at something if you are grateful. It just doesn't work. So train yourself to be grateful for every little thing you have and every big thing.
And from what you're saying, I think that a very good point that you have is to start actually doing all these things with little things, being grateful for, like you have a good meal, be grateful for that with very little things, because sometimes we get a lot into the mindset, to be rich, I need to start big, I need to get
I'll be grateful.
Yeah,
when
I will be
have
grateful
$1
then.
million.
Yeah.
I need to get to the top, in 1 year or 2 years. I need to start doing big things or take more risks than I can actually manage, or try things that are out of my control. And I need to learn the process first, instead of being happy for the small things, because I often associate the thing, okay, if I'm not starting to think big or be grateful for my yacht, if I'm grateful for my iPhone, or I'm grateful
For a glass
for
of water,
having
yeah.
water, what's that? I want to be grateful when I have a yacht.
That's true. That's true.
I'm not a practitioner anymore because I don't have the yacht yet.
But if you have the yacht, then you are not grateful anyhow, because it's not inside of you, and you will see
It's a
that
practice.
somebody else has a better yacht, and then you think, oh shit, look at that guy,
Yeah.
Nashpa,
Yeah.
I should have had that one.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's actually like a scenario or way of thinking that it's updates with anything that you get. I get that. It's still there. It's still there. The thinking is still there.
It's a mental training, mental discipline.
What is your opinion about the failure, and what is your attitude about it?
Oh, failure doesn't exist actually, unless you allow it and you choose for it. So you can't fail. Anthony Robbins once said, or I think it was Anthony Robbins, he said, you only fail if you quit. So if you quit, then it stops. But as long as you don't quit, there is no failure. People put failure because it doesn't happen within their deadlines. And then they feel they failed and they stop. And then they really failed because they stopped the project. There is failure. But otherwise, other than that, there is no failure.
So not reaching a deadline is not actually a failure if you don't want to be a failure.
Exactly.
And exactly in that moment when you had a major setback and maybe you're feeling some negative energy or negative thoughts coming to you, or maybe it was something public, a setback that was public and other people criticized or humiliated you, and you're exactly in that moment, exactly in that energy. What do you think are the best steps to take you out of that and to switch into something that is more positive and more empowering?
Well, to do a positive, empowering thing.
Extend the deadline. You know what?
Well, you
Just
know,
up in 1 year.
my first company went basically bankrupt, and my partner at that time offered me a way how to get out of it. But it was a company, we made clocks and lamps, etc. And by the way, a couple of months ago, I saw clocks from the brand which we were selling in Holland, because he sold that company. And if you go to Mobexpert, you see clocks which are called Next Time. And one of those clocks is a clock I designed 30 years ago. Hilarious. But okay. So I had to get out of that company.
Yeah.
right? And I was devastated. And I didn't have no money anymore, or at least I had 3,000 euros, and I was really bad, and angry at the world, angry at everybody. And then I thought, you know what? Fuck it. I went to the most expensive shopping street in Amsterdam, the PC Hoofdstraat. And I went into a shop where they had beautiful suits. And I thought, you know what? I'm gonna spend all my money on 2 suits. So I bought 2 suits with a crazy expensive price that time, 3,000 euros. So, and it was all of my money. And when I had that suit on in the dressing room and those people were serving me really nice as if I was a big guy, you know. And then, something switched in me. And I thought, wow, this is cool. This is the taste of success. Mm-hmm. And that is when I made a choice. And that was a coincidence. But the next day I got a phone call for a job. And within a week I was working in a company. And I got a car and everything was good again. Not that I would advise that to everybody, but you know, I did a stupid thing, but it turned out good. But you know, you have to break your drama. You have to get out of there if you want to proceed.
No matter how.
You have to stop whining.
Yeah, you have to break the cycle.
Whining doesn't get you anywhere. Talking negatively will never do you good. Opposite of talking positively and thinking positively. Even thinking positive, you can fake it until you make it. Mm-hmm. But always positive thinking will bring you much better results than negative thinking.
Do you still have periods that are negative, or that you feel like you have some negative emotions or things that come around you, and how do you deal with that? Thoughts, you know, maybe.
Yeah, I have. You know, you have your demons. You know, you just don't control your mind all the time. And a couple of weeks ago, first when the Corona crisis started, so we had 2019 was our best year ever, and finally going well and nice. Everything was good. The team was good. You know, we had wonderful people. Everything good. And then again a crisis. And I was so angry at that crisis that I thought, shit, again a crisis. And you know, you can't do nothing about it. Or just by saving your company and taking all the steps you have to take. But yeah, then I was really, really pissed off for a couple of days. And then I read a podcast about Ironman, and then I thought, you know, I'm going to train for an Ironman. And I started to run and to be physically very active. Mm-hmm. And then I start to feel better. So when I feel like low energy, in stress, I usually go running or biking. Mm-hmm. Physically to really exhaust myself. Yeah. So not just biking a bit, but then 4 or 5 hours until I really cannot open the door anymore when I want to come in. So I exhaust myself to the maximum. Yeah. And then I'm reset. So everybody has something else. When I was drinking a lot. So that helped for a couple of hours, but then the next morning you felt even more miserable. Yeah. So that wasn't good.
The reality hit. Yeah. So I'm really curious, for example, because I had that when I was growing up, and I think a lot of people have this as well. When they hang around with people with more money than them, or they're just, I know, going places, it's sometimes something like, oh, those people are judging me, you know, and every person have their thing, but I don't know, maybe They look at my car, they think, why is, I don't know, what doesn't he have a more beautiful car, or the way he's dressed, or they're judging me, or how I look, or how I behave, or all sort of irrational things like that. And I wanted to ask you, from your experience and other wealthy and prosperous people that you know, when you are going places, you're starting to pick apart people who have less money than you. Is this a practice that you have? Or?
No. Well, I like prosperous people. So I like it if somebody has a beautiful car, or I have a friend, and once he decided that he needed a Bentley, a Porsche, and a big BMW. So he had 3 cars: the Porsche to go to the advertising agency, the BMW to go to his accountant, and the Bentley with his wife or whatever, right? But it is, by the way, an illusion that people really are interested in you and judge you, because most people are only interested in themselves. So they look at you and maybe they have a thought, but that's it. So I would say prosperity is also independent from what anybody else could possibly think of you. And I strongly advise you that you don't give a shit what other people think about you, because you can't influence anyhow what other people think about you. They think their stuff anyhow, right? So why bother about what other people think?
Yeah. Ultimately, it's their right to think what they want.
Yeah, and if you want to be nice, be a nice person. If you want to be a happy person. If you want to be an outgoing person, be an outgoing person. And that's it. And don't wait for the appreciation of other people. It's irrelevant.
One thing that you said about people who are spending money and trying to buy a lot of things that they cannot afford. I've noticed this in Romania, and I think in some countries as well. People do tend to place a lot of value on what people have, or own, or how much money they have, and they let people get away with how they are as a person, or how they treat other people. Oh, maybe he did that, but he's my boss, he's giving me a nice salary, and so on and so forth, and I can let you go with being a jerk because, or with famous people. And now we're actually starting to seeing with this young new generation, millennials, and the ones who come after them, they don't have that respect or that humility, to let to place yourself underneath just because that person has some money, and just trying to get people accountable, and not it doesn't matter that you have money, or it doesn't matter that you have fame, you still need to be nice as a person, and also your value as a human being doesn't come for that. But I think we still have a lot to learn, in terms of actually
well, I think that's everywhere. That's not just Romania. I see that everywhere, and I think it is connected with superiority and inferiority. So I also see in our company that junior recruiters or junior sales guys, they are afraid to call the CEO of a big company because they look up to them. Why that is that they feel inferior, and they think those people are superior, right? And I also thought that always when I was a young kiddo. But that is an illusion, because there is nobody superior to you, but there is also nobody inferior to you. We are all equal. We are totally equal.
In which way?
Actually, in every way. The only thing is that some people have more money, some people do other stuff than you do, some people value other stuff. So in the way we express ourselves, we are all different. But we are all on the same level. So we are equal. And yeah.
And how do you understood that? Because you said you also had it at times. How you understood and really understood that concept? Started to feeling equal with other people.
Well, that guy who makes €1 billion a year, he has to eat, he has to poop and pee, same as we do. He has his worries about his business, and he has to live, he has to sleep, he has to think about his health. His heart beats the same way as your heart. If you have the same blood type, you can give him his blood and he yours blood. We all are born, and for everybody, our body dies at a certain moment. And you come with nothing and you go with nothing, no material stuff. You are totally equal. There is nobody superior to you, and there is nobody inferior to you. So the cleaning lady is as precious for your company as the CFO. There is no difference. And if you have if you are free from superiority and inferiority, everybody is an okay person. Everybody is nice. You don't have to worry about anything anymore.
You earned that this attitude, or you born with it?
I studied it, I trained it, and because it wasn't easy. Because I looked down on people who had shitty jobs, what I thought was a shitty job. And I looked up at people who had made it in my eyes. So, wow. Or, with the clocks and the lamps, I was selling lamps to the big retailers, so to the purchasers. Well, and those people were, for me, of course,
the gods.
Yeah.
So how you overcome this attitude, this
by listening.
mindset?
Yeah, by listening a lot of tapes from Wayne Dyer.
Wayne
Dyer every night, yes. Wayne Dyer every night, and then
something clicked.
Yeah, and then all those things go gradually.
Yeah.
And it's not just that it's a switch, but it goes.
You said something interesting with the billionaire who has worries. I think a lot of time myself and other people that I've talked with, they think, oh, I cannot be successful, or I cannot reach a certain level because look, I have fears, I have worries, I think, or I have anxiety, or I fear that I won't make money anymore, or there are not enough money in the world. But sometimes you see that a lot of people who are very successful, they have fear. Like I saw an interview with Elon Musk, he said, oh, but I have fear. The difference is that they act instead of in the face of fear, and they have courage, and other people think, oh, I have fear, something is wrong with me, I cannot succeed, so they get stuck with that.
Yeah, if you let fear control you, then you quit, then you stop something, and you fail.
To be successful, I need to have no fear.
Yeah.
I don't need to worry, because I worry, this is the sign that it's something wrong with me, or because I'm afraid of not making enough money.
Yeah, I have to be enlightened.
How do you think you can go past that, and start to act more and have more courage?
Yeah, my coach, I had a coach, a mental coach. She was coaching mindfulness, and she explained me that having courage is fear in action. So she said, if you feel fear, let it be true. Don't try to push it away. Don't try to overrule it. Yeah. Feel it. Feel the fear. Be there. And go into your fear and let it be true. And once you are deep in your fear, you will feel there is a way out, and you will act with courage, and you will overcome it. So she said, all your emotions, everything what is negative and sad, feel it, let it be true. And anger, for example. She said, go into your anger, and the person you are angry at, kill that person in your thoughts. Do with that person whatever you want. Demolish the person. So when she said that, so I have killed people in the most horrible ways in my thought. But it helped. And so she gave me a lot of exercises, which I did. And so you deal with your anger and all your emotions. So your emotions are then signals, and you can welcome them and live with them. Even if you are completely sad and sad, you can even enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy it.
Yeah. One way or the other you can, and you know that if you, I don't cry a lot, but sometimes I have cried, but after you are ready with crying, you feel great.
Yeah.
So it's still difficult for me to cry, but it helps.
You don't need to cry now.
It's not necessary.
Yeah.
What about the fear of failure?
Yeah, well, that's unnecessary.
Oh,
Yeah.
good
So,
answer.
so you know that is a choice. You make a choice. I don't fail. I go on, and that's it. I wouldn't give it more thoughts than that. But you know, people are afraid to make mistakes, and in Dutch, when a person makes a mistake, we don't call it a mistake. We call it a moment of learning, or the moment of truth. So a learning moment.
Yeah.
So in companies, they say, "Oh, you made a learning moment," so they smile about it and they don't punish.
Mm-hmm.
But at school and our parents, and at school and also at work, most of the time you are punished for mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get fear.
Yeah.
And that is also fear of failure, and that is so counterproductive. Once I had a colleague, and she paid invoices 2 or 3 times to one company. So that's a big mistake. And she was on the phone, she was crying, and she was desperate. And I said, take it easy, Veronica, it's just money. Take it easy, ask if they will give it back. And when I come back to Slovakia, this was in Slovakia, I'll buy you the most beautiful perfume because you have learned a wonderful lesson. So I came and I gave her the perfume, and she was even more desperate. You should not give me the perfume because I don't deserve it. I made a mistake. But I said, no, you have learned. It was not a big amount, and it prevents a mistake with maybe €1 million,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you, and I've seen once, I've read once from an American company that they were rewarding their employees who made mistakes and discussed it in the meeting in order to improve the process.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I think that any company will benefit from rewarding the mistakes with a financial benefit or with a present.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's counter of the way we were raised up. But for example, with Romanians, what do you think, what resources, internal or external, do you see that we have as a country and as people that we can become way better at actually exploiting them or making them work or putting them to work more efficiently, if there are any?
Well, first of all, you know, the power of Romania and its people is enormous. You know, Romania is a power. And what I see in the people is that there's so much energy. Romanians are there is a lot of energy in this country. And the people are extremely creative and resourceful. So if it doesn't go this way, we do it this way. Or if you decide we do it that way, then most of the time it will go completely different, but the result is always better, right?
Mm.
So, I see Romania as a powerhouse because of its people. On the other hand, you never have a boring day in Romania because always something explodes, always something happens. There's always people crying or people are completely ecstatic. There's nothing in between, right? It's or sky high or it's down. But the productivity, there is chaos and there is then always an extremely smart solution and it goes then wonderfully well. So, I know so many Romanian people who are now in other countries having high positions because also the working mentality is just great. And but it goes with a lot of force and a lot of power into it. So it's probably the opposite of how a German company or Germany is working, right? But so that's why Romania is a unique country.
Yeah. So you think sometimes we're like fighting, like putting too much energy into doing something or trying too much, going too crazy at it when it could be more smoothly and more.
Yeah. That is really the Romanian way. And what I would say is that it never is the way people think it is in Romania. So if somebody tells you the situation, then most of the time it's completely different. Because then you ask and then it comes, after a while it comes all together. And then it's completely different again.
Somebody has this viewpoint, the other person has the completely other viewpoint, the other person.
About that.
What do you think, sorry, Alex? What do you think is the connection between stress, relaxation, and money and prosperity?
Yeah, well, money can give a lot of stress. If you think you don't have enough or if you must have more, then it can give a lot of stress. And like my mother was stressed with money, my father wasn't. Same amount of money, so that is an attitude, respect. Worrying about money is I see with people around me.
How do you think you can stop worrying about money?
Maybe being grateful for what you have and deciding that what you have right now is enough and it's exactly what you wanted. If you take responsibility in your life for everything what happened in your life, then you are independent from everything. So if you can say the corona crisis, what I think of it is because of me. So all this stuff what is happening is because of me. And if I am in control, then I can decide how to deal with it. But if I say, oh, we're all a victim and how bad and we have to wear masks here and it's stupid and bad, then I put myself down and I put myself out of control.
Mm-hmm.
Prosperity is always being in control, and you are in control when you take responsibility for everything that you have in your life. And if you take the responsibility, okay, I only have 1,000 euro on my bank account or I can't pay the bills now. But if you take responsibility, it's because of me. It also means I can do something about it. That's prosperity. If you blame other people, then you give the control to other people and then you are out of control.
Yeah.
And you're a victim,
And then you are a victim.
I feel stuck.
Yeah.
You said that you are a co-founder of your business and you work with, you have some partners. How you work with your partners in order that when you have an opinion or when you want to keep a direction and your partner have other option and he sees things different, how you come to a conclusion, how you work with your partners.
The great consensus.
Yeah.
Yeah. In all this time,
Yeah.
only one partner left the company because he couldn't deal with the stress, and he said, okay, I sell my shares. But like with the partner in Romania, Christina, so we started in 2001. So she didn't know recruitment, so I was often in Romania, and I told her all about how to do the business, etc. But I think after 1 or 2 years, she always asked me, okay, Gerard, what should we do? And I gave her my point of view. And I think 9 out of 10 cases, she did it completely different, right? So
That bothered you or not?
sometimes yes, because I thought, oh, she's really going to make a lot of mistakes, and probably she made her mistakes.
Too much money for presents.
Yeah, but you know, you have to make your mistakes. You cannot guide anybody, you know, to be successful. You must have your own fair share of mistakes. And so she can be tough on me, and but you know, she always does it with the same goal and purpose, to make the company better. And you know, there are many ways how to build a successful company and to keep it successful. And it's not my way, which is the law. It's not her way, but she should do it in her way and not in my way, because she can't do it my way. So I just accept that.
So important is only it's only to have the same goal with your partners, the same agenda, right?
Yeah.
But the ways not so important. You can get a result, or you can reach a goal
I
through
agree.
different ways, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So you not keep on your way of doing things.
No, I
You
wouldn't
let
do that.
go.
Yeah. Well, I was in the beginning like a dictator. It
Yeah.
should be exactly this
This
way,
is the way.
Yeah.
and it just doesn't work.
And
Just
how do you learn to embrace different styles? How do you learn to delegate? How do you learn to build like different levels of management and so on and so forth, and not be involved in everything?
And being relaxed in the process.
Yeah, how do you learn it? I think, you know, you learn from your mistakes. You learn from actually everything what goes wrong gives you the best lessons. And in our company, I'm sure I have made most of the mistakes of anybody else, and I have made the most damage probably from everybody else. But because I'm the longest in the company and I did the most, so, but I compensated it with a lot of good stuff, right? And if I would not have made all those mistakes on my way, I wouldn't have been here now, right? So, yeah.
You just keep on going, not beating yourself up too much, and just trying, and going to with determination to reach that goal, and
Yeah.
believing it's possible. But how do you, for example, how do you keep the belief that it's possible once you failed, you know, or have multiple setbacks with something that takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, that implies, you know, learning so much or investing so much than what you have thought before that is needed? How do you keep the hope then?
I visualize a lot. So I have made my game plan, my action plan,
Yeah.
of what I want as to realize and manifest as goals.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of goals, and I have actions what I should do, and etc. Not that, and sometimes I look at it again and I never reach the times, etc. But that doesn't matter. I always see progress towards the goals. So for me, it's enough that I know the goals. And I know that when I'm here and there's the goal, that it's not just one road there.
Yeah.
I know that there are crises, and after Corona, there will be in 5 or 6 or 7 years another crisis, and another one. And I know that people would like to, for example, kick me out of the company, or not, or whatever. And I have patience. I wait, I hang on, and I do my thing. And I can't do nothing else than my thing. And I believe in it, and I love the journey.
Yeah.
Not every day,
Yeah.
but I like it.
Yeah. So it's a lot about hanging in there.
Hanging on,
Yeah, hanging
that's
on.
it. You know, be patient. You know, there is a Course in Miracles, it's a beautiful book. And A Course in Miracles writes a beautiful sentence, and it's infinite patience delivers immediate results. Infinite patience delivers immediate results. And I am infinite patient with myself and with others. And I will support everybody, I will do everything, and we just get there where I want to be.
As you said before, success is about a decision. It's not about the time, it's not about the deadline, it's not about the setbacks you have on a journey, but it's about the decision.
It's a choice.
It's a choice.
It's a choice.
Yeah.
I
You
think.
choose for it.
Yeah.
And you see people who have reached their goals at a very old age, when they are 60 or 70 or 80 or 90.
Yeah.
And why would you care? Why would you be in a hurry? Why would you be in a hurry that I must be a millionaire when I'm 40? Who cares? Yeah? Enjoy the road. Have fun in what you do. Have pleasure in like what you guys do. And you are constantly making beautiful podcasts or interviews and now movies. And you know, whatever your goal is, if you keep on doing this, you can't avoid to get what it is you want. You can't avoid it even. With a great attitude, success cannot be avoided. Not at all. It's actually easier to be very successful than to fail. Because failure takes a lot of emotion and it's tough.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
Success is much nicer and easier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, very nice.
Yeah. I'd like to thank you, Gerard. Do you have
Yeah.
more questions?
No, I think
Alex?
this is the best
Yeah,
best moment to
The best
to
moment to
close this,
finish.
Yeah.
I would like to also thank our partners from A-Hub, A-Space, which have this nice location
Yeah.
for
Co-working.
remote co-working, and they were very kind with generous, so A-Space.
Here in Bucharest.
Yeah,
Thank
that's,
you
a
so
great,
much.
I'd like-
that's a great location.
Yeah.
Very popular to do co-working. And now with
This one, yeah.
in these times, it's a
Yeah.
perfect solution.
Yeah, this one is close to our home, Floreasca, but they also have 2 other offices.
In Bucharest, yeah.
Yeah, and I would like to thank you, Gerard, because you've been so generous with your time and
Yeah.
experience and so open. And you share a lot with us and with people who will be watching.
Okay,
Yes.
cool pleasure.
Yeah,
And thank you
Yeah.
very much for having
Yeah.
me here.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Thank
we'd
you so
like
much.
to
To thank
Yeah.
Josh because
to thank Josh and to
Yes,
to
filming
wish you
us.
the best with the software, with the company, with the Ironman, and with everything that you set your mind.
yeah,
Thank
and
you,
maybe-
guys.
Yeah, and maybe we'll meet again after the Ironman, so you can
Yeah,
tell
experience
us
the
the experience.
Yeah, well, I'm very curious
Yeah.
yeah.
how that will go.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Okay,
you.
thank you. Mulțumesc.
Bye. La revedere.